The deadly side of a cashless society. Now, I may do a longer video of this to kind of build you the fuller picture, but let's just start with that. Let's just start with that. And what I'm going to do, let's see, because there are a couple of things that I want to cover with regards to this one. So I'm going to take you back about 21 years, where I first became aware of the dangers and perils of a cashless society. And I'm going to take you on the journey of that piece. So, the first thing that happened with regards to that was what we call the movement and tracking ruse. Now, I received a phone call from someone who wanted to come and do back in those days, I was doing the 1 day breakthrough session. So, come in the morning, go out the other end, change your life. So she was asking about that and said, "Can I pay cash?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." And she probably asked me 5 or 6 times, which I thought was a bit odd because I'd answered. But it wasn't until she arrived that it became apparent why she was asking. So she was in an abusive relationship. Her partner used to go through all of her statements to see where she'd been, what she'd been doing, who she'd been with. So, for example, even for her to go and get her nails done, go out for coffee with her friends, which he absolutely hated, because whenever she went out for coffee with her friends, she would come back more emboldened, more empowered. So he was doing everything he could to shut that down and shut that off. So they go to a particular restaurant, for example. If she paid with check back in those days, that's how it was mainly done, but paid with check or put something on a credit card, when the statement came through, she knew she would get a grilling about that. So he used that as a way to keep tabs and track everything that she was doing. So there have been times where she had gone out where, for whatever reason, they all wanted to put it on the card or they all wanted to pay by check, etc. So what she then had to do, and she didn't really want to tell people what was going on. You don't want everyone in your business necessarily. So she would have to sort of say to people, "Oh, I've left my card or I've left my checkbook at home. Can I give you the cash?" "Oh, yeah, no problem." But once you've done that a few times, that ruse gets a little bit old. So she was finding that she had to start isolating away from friends, giving her partner exactly what he wanted, because it was either she tell the truth about what was going on, or they get suspicious that this is a woman who mysteriously always never has any cash. So it got to the point where she had previously worked up a bit of courage, enough courage to leave the relationship and kind of made her way. Unfortunately, she stayed at a little boutique style hotel and popped into a little coffee shop, paid with check, paid with her credit card. A few days later, and this is where it got really, really quite scary. Um, her the door of the establishment where she was staying knocked. She said, "Who is it?" "Maintenance, we've got a problem we just need to look at," sort of muffled. And she looked through the little peephole, could just see the top of the cap, and it looked as though the man was kind of in his toolbox. But what had happened is, a few days later, the bank statement had arrived. The partner then called the bank and said, "There are a couple of payments here I don't recognize." Now he's named on the account. "A couple of payments I don't recognize. What are these for?" So as a result of that, he was able to get the name of where she was staying and the name of the place where she had purchased some food. So then travels there, goes into the food establishment, describes her and has a photo. He has an envelope in his hand and he says, "My girlfriend has come down to deliver a talk workshop," whatever it was he said. "She's left her notes." Now, this was 20 odd years ago. So we weren't scanning and we weren't emailing as much as, it was. You might have faxed it to someone, but, he's got this envelope. It's really important. "Has she been here?" Starts to describe her in great detail. The woman saying, "I'm not sure." And he says, "Oh, hang on, I've got a photo of my wallet." So he pulls out the photo in his wallet. Of course, he's the concerned partner. The woman looks and says, "Oh, yeah, she was in here." And because they had it just sounds like a movie, because they'd had a chat And while she was in getting something to eat, oh, you know, what are you doing here? She just said, oh, I'm having a little break. I'm staying at this. And they said, oh, it's a lovely little place. I know the people who run it. So very innocent conversation with the woman behind the counter, who now is having another innocent conversation with what she believes to be the woman's partner, who's driven all this way like a knight in shining armor to bring her these very important notes for her very important business meeting. So he gets the name, waits until he can slip into the establishment. And again, had he not been able to slip in, he would have used exactly the same ruse. I've come all this way. My girlfriend's left this. I don't think she's realized she left them behind, yada, yada, yada. Makes his way up to the room where she's staying, and then just lies in wait for when it's all clear and he can knock on the door and bust in and hold a knife to her throat. Now, you might think that seems a little bit far-fetched. Let me just tell you about the experience that I had a couple of weeks ago. So I get to the station, I was at Paddington, went to buy my ticket and I wanted to pay cash. Standing at the machine, I'm looking at the machine, I'm like, where's the cash slot? And there was one slot that looked vaguely like a cash slot, but when you go to put something in it, it doesn't go anywhere and the little light doesn't flash. So I'm like, I actually don't think there's a cash slot. And while I'm fiddling about doing all this, I actually missed my train. So I then have to pay by card, which I actually didn't want to do for various reasons, because I wanted to run this experiment that I'm talking to you about. Within seconds, London Paddington appears on my bank statement. Okay. So I've got the ticket now, couldn't pay cash, had to then start this audit trail. I get onto the train. I'm sitting on the seat just opposite the luggage rack. A woman comes in struggling with a case. A gentleman helps her put it up onto the shelf. From the way she was speaking, she sounded as though she was Eastern Europe, didn't speak much English. I didn't really think that much of it. So she's sitting the seat just one before me. So I'm here, there's an empty seat, she's sitting in the seat, and then the guy is sitting diagonally opposite from me and more opposite her. So the trolley comes through now and she says, water, please. So woman goes into the trolley, the train member of staff hands her the water. The woman gets money out and hands a couple of pounds to the woman with the trolley. The woman in the trolley almost recoils back in horror and says, we can't take cash. So now I kind of start paying more attention to this conversation. And the woman's saying, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I need water. I need water. So I now start rummaging in my great big bag to get my card, because I was just like, let me just buy this woman some water. Before I'd had a chance to do that, the man sitting opposite, who'd helped with the case, he pulled his card out and paid for the water. No problem, you might think. I then thought, let me just buy something and see what happens with this. Of course, the train company details now, immediately within seconds, they're on my statement. So somebody was tracking, they can see that I'm at Paddington, they can now see what train line I'm on. I then get to Oxford, go into a store, and it happened to me when I was in London. I went into London for the Jubilee, went into one of my favorite stores when I was working as an organization I was mentoring for and doing kind of working for an entrepreneurship startup in London. It's a wonderful organization called Wayra, and they were sponsored by Telefonica. One of my favorite places was across the road, so I just used to nip into there, and they've got a favorite dish that they do. So I'm out for the Jubilee, I go into that particular store going, oh, they still do it. I pick it up, I've got my cash in my hand, put it on the counter, she rings it up, I hand her the cash. She has the same reaction as the woman on the train, recoils back almost in horror and says, we can't take cash. So now what happens is I have to put that on my card. The name of the organization and the street basically comes up on my statement. So now I'm thinking about these clients, because it's not just the one client, the one who had the knife at her throat. I heard that same story, many iterations of it, many, many times. Basically now, if I had an abusive partner, God forbid that would never happen, they would have been able to see exactly where I was at the exact time, because it all pops up in real time. And depending on how far away they were from that location, they could either be there in minutes, or, as in the case of the client that I encountered 21 years ago, he made an overnight trip, but was able then to still be kind of backtracking from what he knew of what he'd seen on the paper statement that had arrived at the house after she had gone. So when I'm really thinking about all of this stuff, it worries me that there are things that you now cannot do without leaving a massive, massive audit trail that pinpoints where you are, exactly what you did, right down to basically the location. Because if someone really wanted to find you and they knew you were at London Paddington, they knew you were on a particular train at a particular time, it wouldn't take a million years for them to narrow that down, particularly if what happened when I got to Oxford, tried to buy something to eat, had the same experience. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cash. Now they know I was at Paddington. They know I got on a particular train, and don't have to worry about what train line, where it was going, because you now know the name of the cafe that I bought something to eat in. This is freaking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So what I'm really interested to know now is if any of you know someone who is an abused partner. And I say partner because men can be abused just as well as women. I know women are the most prevalent group, but it can happen both ways. But if you know anyone who has told you they are in an abusive relationship, please find out for me how they are going to be coping when they have to leave an audit trail, that if their partner has access to their details, and because you could be saying, well, don't tell your partner what your details are. Come on. If you've ever watched any of these documentaries, you'll know the lengths that these partners have gone to track. There was a woman, I remember watching a documentary on Channel 4 where she only found out a year or so after her partner had gone that he'd put tracking software on her PC. So every single time she did a keystroke, he was somewhere watching, even though they were no longer together. And talking of documentaries on Channel 4, there was one a few years ago. It didn't dawn on me exactly what I was watching until I was like 20 minutes in. And then I realized that every single story we were being shown was true. And unfortunately, the main protagonist did not live to tell the tale. So we were watching the reconstructions. It was mixed in actually with documentary footage and interviews with their actual families. But then as it started to unfold, I realized that every single smiling woman, because in this case it focused on women, every single smiling woman who turned up, and we first see her out with her friends as she's partying, and then we see her life get a little bit more dark, you then have this awful knowing in your stomach that they are no longer alive, because they were, and some of them, oh my gosh, there was one in particular, she was going to be leaving him the next day, and he got to the flat, got in and murdered her. So I am not taking this lightly, nor am I being overly dramatic, because the story that I was told 21 years ago just so stuck with me. She was lucky he didn't kill her. He just held a knife to, well, I'm saying just held a knife to her throat as if that isn't bad enough. So she didn't die, but he held a knife to her throat, pushed her back into the room, slams the door, raped her, and then made her pack her bags and come and go home. So I really, if you are connected with any organizations that worked with abused partners, if you are connected with organizations who work with shelters, I would really like to know, what is the backup plan? Nowadays, let's say, for example, you can make calls because you can get a burner phone. Is there a burner card? Where do you get one from so that your every movement will not be visible to someone you potentially have a joint account with, or someone who knows what your passwords are and can be snooping around without you knowing? So I'm going to leave that one there for now. I would really like to know the answer to those particular questions, because as far as I can see, this is serious stuff. I'm not messing about. I'm not being over dramatic. These are stories that I've been told in the 22 years that I've been a coach and therapist, and it's all real stuff. So what can I say? what can I say? Okay, the thing I would say in closing is if, and for example, I went into my local Marks and Spencer's yesterday. There are, I think it's like 12 machines, let's say 10 or 12 machines. 2 of them weren't working, all bar 2 of them. So a good 8 of them said card only. I was in a shop called B&M yesterday as well. There was only one till open. It said card only. There'll be places like the place I went into London, which is a really big chain in London, who do lovely food, but card only. So one of the things I may start doing is, because it's something I've always done in terms of budgeting, because it's easy. Cards, tap here, swipe here, swipe here. Before you get home, before you know it, you get home, goes, where's all the money gone? So what I have been doing for many years is taking out a certain amount of cash, because I can physically see exactly what's there, what's going on. I think I'm more conscious about it when I spend it, etc., etc. So I'm going to go back to that habit of withdrawing the cash in terms of the amount that I know I'm happy to spend on a particular occasion. And I think it's going to have to come down to it. If there are shops that are saying, oh, and acting like cash is a dirty word, I will probably just have to start taking my custom elsewhere, because what I've experienced, and the women, and I have to say women because it was mainly women that I was sitting with who were telling me these stories. But I know from some of the clients I've had, now none of the male clients I've had thus far have had that sort of story where their female partner was tracking and tracing and following them and stalking them based on that. But I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I'm just kind of telling you from the experiences I had with the women that have sat and shared their stories with me. The thought that we are now backing them into a dangerous, deadly corner fills me with a level of dread and foreboding that I cannot even begin to put into words. So I really, really hope that the world isn't going where I see it going. But I was in London a couple of weeks ago. We had a really hot day. It was 30 degrees. I thought, oh, I'm going to go to London. Went to Regent's Park. I've got my beach towel laid out. I'm chilling, and I see the little stand across the way, and it's the only thing in the vicinity. And I think, you know what, I'm going to go and get, I had ice cream on the way to London. So I thought, I'm going to get myself an ice lolly. So I rock up, get myself an ice lolly. I don't think I'm not going to give any prizes for what happened when I handed the woman some money. She rails back almost in horror. It was the lolly was, I think it was 150 or 250, something like that. Oh, can't take cash. So I had to then fumble about in my bag and use my purse. And again, that then the name of where I was, whoosh, within a second, it's on my statement. And then I saw, as I was walking away, they had bananas. Now, actually, no, that's not true. How it played out is I wanted the lolly, and so I had pay by card. Then I'm walking away and I see the bananas. And I said, how much are your bananas? And she said, £1, I think it was. And I know I had a couple of 50p pieces in. So no, it's 50p or £1. Let's just say £1. So I take the money, and that's when I handed her the money, just so I don't need to go through the rigmarole of the card again. She rails back, says, oh, can't take cash. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. And this is a place that predominantly sells ice creams and lollies. I don't know. Are all the kids now in London? I mean, anywhere. Are they now walking around with smartwatches and tapping and using cards at 7, 10, 12 years old? I don't know. I mean, I was going to ask her the question, sorry, how do you deal with children? Or are children now just barred from your store? Does this mean children can't buy lollies and ice creams or a bit of candy? Sweets, as we say here in the UK. I didn't get into that conversation with her. I just thought, you know what, this is getting beyond ridiculous, and just left and had a little rant on Facebook, as you do. But this is madness. This is absolute madness. So if you know some organizations who'd be willing to talk who have experienced the kind of things that I have experienced in terms of the people that I've been sitting with and having these private conversations with, really feel free to put them in touch, because I want to speak to them about what the alternative is. What is the plan B when you're trying to get on a train and they won't take your money? They will only take your card. I don't know. Answers on a postcard, please. I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you want to drop me an email, my email is Marilyn, Marilyn. The name is on the screen. It says Marilyn D, but it's Marilyn at trance, TRANCE, formations, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS, Marilyn at transformationstm.com. Love to speak to some of these organizations. I'd love to know what the plan B is, so that the scenario that I was first told about 21 years ago doesn't start playing out in quick succession, because abuse, the murdering of partners, be they current partners or ex-partners that are trying to get away, it's already a massive problem. And this whole cashless business just feeds and puts fuel to that fire. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to share this video if you know anyone who could help and support, because this is, it's life and death stuff. From the conversations I've had with the women over the years, this is life and death stuff. And now it's a million times easier, because the advantage they had previously is the bank statements would come in the post. So there was always a bit of a lead time for them to get far enough away. Now someone could be on your tail within minutes, because I watched it. I have got some screenshots. Maybe if I do another video about this, I'll put the screenshots up so you can see exactly what appeared, because I have, you know, I had it online. I could show you exactly what appeared on the statements and how detailed it was. But look at your own statements, look at your own bank statements, and see how detailed many of those entries are. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. I will catch you all later. And I do hope that you are all fit and healthy and well.